This is my second Finnish film, and I gotta say, I'm starting to like Finnish films, and even better, I like when Finnish films are finished. The Midwife, released in 2015, or if it goes by the Finnish language, it is Kätilö, but this movie is also known as Finland 1944, or it's also known as Wild Eye. See, this is why I've had such a hard time finding this movie to watch and finding it in a language or with closed captioning for the language that I understand, which I couldn't, so I kind of just had to watch this film and guess what was going on and read up on it later. But this film is directed by Antti Jokinen, who is also behind such films like The Resident, Flowers of Evil, Elena, and Purge from 2012 that I reviewed on this channel a couple of weeks ago. And this film is starring Krista Kosonen, Lauri Tilkkinen, Pirkka-Pekka and Tommi Korpela. And the reason why we're talking about the Midwife, Wild Eye, Finland 1944, or Kätilö, whatever you want to call it. The reason why we're talking about it is because it was a PayPal recommendation from one of my subscribers, one of my fans, someone that has recommended films to me before, all coming from the fine country of Finland. This is from Edvard Michelson. Thank you very much for the recommendation. Thank you for sending me the links to finding this movie. I was able to find it, but as I stated before, I was not able to find something where the closed captioning was in English to where I could comprehend what was happening, so I kind of just had to watch it and listen to it, and I'm pretty sure I got the gist of what was happening. Plus, I also looked up plot summaries after I watched it, so I know what happened. And I was pretty close. In 1944 Finland, as World War II rages on, Elena, a small community's midwife named Wild Eye, meets a Finnish-German Nazi officer Johannes, and they fall madly in love. However, with the Germans soon suffering defeat, and the war seemingly coming to an end shortly, the two are pulled into difficult directions, trying to stay together, while also trying to stay alive. It's your standard forbidden love story, just with the backdrop of World War II, and one of the two people in love is a Nazi soldier. And I know a lot of Germans watch my videos, especially after watching and looking at all the comments for my review of Das Boot, so I need to be careful when I use the word Nazi and I'm calling a character a Nazi when really they're just a German soldier. Apparently they're two separate things. I'm fairly confident all the Germans that we see in this film are Nazis because they all wear the Nazi uniform. But I'm sure if I'm wrong, everyone from Germany will politely comment below, and I welcome it. Yay! Or maybe I should just call them Axis powers, because that's technically what it is. That's encompassing of everyone that the Allied forces fought against in World War II. Or even better yet, I could call it the Axis of Evil that George W. Bush in our country called when they all went to war for some reason in the Middle East. Maybe I should call it the Axis of Evil. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's correct to call this lead male character in this film a Nazi, because he was. But for those people that get offended by me calling Nazis Nazis for whatever reason, maybe I should just call them a part of the Axis of Evil. The Germans in World War II were a big part of the Axis of Evil. And now that I've made that clarification, maybe I can get on with this review and stop stalling. Thank you very much, George W., for stopping by. Thank you for your service. But all of the labels and all the stuff aside, this film is about two people that fall in love with each other. One of them does bad things, and the other one is a midwife who is in poverty and is in this village that's full of superstition. They don't believe in science. Like, she'll see people going off and drowning babies because of the calendar year or the signs that it makes or something like that. So she falls in love with this Nazi soldier, and she sees an out from this world of poverty and this terrible little community and wants to be with this soldier. But this soldier is given orders to pick up and leave and go to this other place, and the midwife is like, well, I love you and I want to stay with you, so you know what, I'll get a job as a nurse in the Nazi concentration camps that you're going to. You know, for love. I think that's the biggest struggle for me with this film, other than, you know, not seeing the closed captioning on here, not knowing exactly what's happening. But the difficult part for me is getting behind these characters, one of which is a Nazi soldier and does what the Nazis are telling him to do, so it's not good. That's not a good thing. But then the midwife, our main character, our main protagonist, who is played by Krista Kosonen, who I think is incredible in this film. She gives a great performance. It's very honest. It's very vulnerable. And I am kind of sucked into whatever this character is doing. regardless of, you know, if I can't really, like, get behind what they're doing or understand or being like, wow, that's a pretty shitty thing to do, I'm sorry. Because the soldier says, oh, I'm going off to the concentration camp. She's like, oh, well, I just want to be with you. So I'll volunteer to be a nurse at this Nazi concentration camp. And I'll help out doing all of the terrible, torturistic things and experiments that all of these people, soldiers and nurses, were doing to all of these prisoners. For love. I'm sorry, it's hard to get behind characters like that have the blinders on so hard and so thick that all they see is love, when really there's a bigger world out there, and it's like, okay, you're doing some shitty shit here, I'm sorry. All led by the officer in charge of this concentration camp, Godal, or Godel, I don't know, it's a Finnish pronunciation, I'm sorry, I'm bad with foreign languages. But Tommi Korpela, he plays a great sadistic villain. You see this guy come on screen, and immediately the presence, the way he carries himself, his demeanor, you look at him and you go, you're just disgusted with everything that he does. Your skin crawls just seeing him on screen. And then, of course, the more you see him throughout the movie, you go, yeah, you're a terrible person, and I hope something bad happens to you. Probably the best thing that I like about this film, when it does happen, are these small little battle scenes that we get. And I say battle scenes, really they're just random bombings from the Allied powers coming over and bombing these stations and concentration camps to kill some of these officers. But there's a moment where Helena comes out from a building, and seconds later the building blows up because planes are coming overhead and they're bombing it, and she's shell-shocked, so she kind of just freezes and just slowly walks off, and as she's walking off, really bombs and bullets are kind of exploding all around her, and she's in such a state of shock and awe, kind of like how I would be if that were to happen to me, that she's just shocked at what is happening and really can't do anything because she's so scared. Those moments, when they do happen, are great, and I love the cinematography behind it, where you hear the ringing in your ears, you don't hear any sound, and then all of a sudden the sound cuts in. It's really great. It's just a lot of the war stuff and what is happening in the grand scheme of the world is really a backdrop, and we really don't focus on it. We focus on these two people who are also blind to the entire world, just trying to stay together, and will do terrible things in order to stay together. And they try to redeem it by having the soldier, like, lose his memory, so he forgets the things that he did, kinda, sorta. So he's forgiven, and we like him now? I don't know. It's definitely an artsy picture. That's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be a dramatic piece. It's not meant to be a war picture. It's more of a romantic picture, but it's really artistic. And there's a lot of different stylized camera techniques. There's a moment in here where the soldier's standing in front of the fire, and we're going in reverse time, which is... It's a really cool visual. In terms of why that's there, I'm not sure. It's a movie that I don't have any inclination to go back and watch on repeat, and I feel like a lot of the stuff that was happening at the concentration camp was kind of how these two people who were falling in love, how they have the blinders on, that's kind of the direction behind the events that was happening at the concentration camp. So you have terrible things, or they insinuate that terrible things are happening, but then, like, if someone's going to be shot, or if someone's going to be cut or stabbed, or something bad is physically going to happen to them, what they do is they bring the person in frame so you know exactly who it's going to happen to, and then the camera pans into, like, their face or their hands or their body in some way, shape, or form, and then the camera pans up to the person who is either watching or delivering the aggression, and the aggression happens off camera. It's very Grecian. We're talking like classic Greek theater, where the Greeks, they didn't like to see violence on stage, so if violence had to happen in the story, the characters would run off, the characters would commit the crimes or the murder or the violence, and then they would be wheeled back on and the story would continue. That's kind of this movie. It's a very Greek theater-ish presentation. It's not the best thing that I've ever seen. I feel like we could have done a lot more here, and again, it's very hard getting behind our protagonist and the person that she loves, because they decide to do bad things in order to stay together. It's an interesting story. I'm glad I watched it, but I have no inclination to go back anytime soon. I'm going to give Kätilö, Wild Eye, Finland 1944, or The Midwife 2.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I found that if you have a goal, that you might not reach it. But if you don't have one, then you are never disappointed. And I gotta tell you, it feels phenomenal.
Alright everyone, now comes my favorite part of my videos where I pick which movie I'm going to be watching next. And the next one comes as another PayPal recommendation and donation from one of my subscribers, someone that has donated and recommended a lot on this channel, Dr. Camp. You strike again with a recommendation of an Academy Award nominated film, There Will Be Blood. I guess a spoiler alert. It's in the title because from what I remember there is blood. Therefore, it's a spoiler. Daniel Day-Lewis, I believe he won Best Actor for his performance in that film. I think I've only seen it once, maybe twice. It's one of those long, dramatic pieces and Oscar-baity pieces, so we'll check it out next time. So guys, if you've seen The Midwife, what did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across because of this video, then comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I'm releasing the next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time with my review of There Will Be Blood. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.